Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're really getting into Morgan Housel's book, The Psychology of Money. It's made quite a splash. Our goal here is to unpack the core insights, look at its strengths, maybe some limitations too. And importantly, focus on what this means for your financial mindset, not just the raw numbers. And it's such a fascinating topic because honestly, it steps away from complicated math or trying to predict the market. It focuses on something much more relatable, I think. Maybe even surprising. It sort of teases this idea that financial success might be more about who you are than just what you know. How does he really make that case?
That's exactly it. What's really striking here is how he shifts the whole conversation. It's less about external factors, market stuff, and more about, us.
Yeah.
He argues that financial well-being is largely an inside job. It's tied up in our biases, our emotions, even our personal histories. It really challenges that common idea. You just need to know the formulas.
Yeah, and he does it with these great stories. One of the really powerful ideas he explores is compounding. Now, we all sort of know what compounding is, right? Small bits growing over time. But Housel's point isn't just the math. It's how incredibly hard it is for us humans to really grasp its long-term power, that non-linear growth. Why patience is so difficult psychologically.
It's a really key distinction. For you listening, the takeaway is that those seemingly tiny, consistent habits, saving a little regularly, maybe just staying invested when things get choppy, that's what builds real wealth over decades. It kind of forces you to ask, are we really playing the long game? Or are we always looking for that quick fix, often, shooting ourselves in the foot?
Right. And building on that focus on internal stuff, Housel also talks a lot about the role of luck and risk, which we don't always like to admit plays a part. It's easy to see success and think, oh, pure hard work or failure, and think, well, they didn't try hard enough. But Housel suggests, well, outcomes are often a mix, right? Effort, sure, but also chance and just unforeseen stuff happening.
That's such an important point. It brings a necessary dose of humility when things go well, recognizing, maybe some good fortune was involved. And equally, it fosters empathy when others stumble. It pushes back against that pure meritocracy story. Understanding this can help you avoid beating yourself up too much over setbacks or, getting too cocky with wins.
Okay, and here's where I think it gets really interesting. This concept of enough. It sounds so simple. The book obviously warns about constantly wanting more, but Housel's insight feels deeper. It's about consciously defining your own enough. What makes that so hard for us?
Well, he points out it's not just about simple greed. It's about breaking free from what psychologists sometimes call the hedonic treadmill, that cycle of always wanting the next thing, getting it, feeling okay for a bit, then wanting more again. Defining enough is actually really liberating. It lets you value contentment, maybe peace of mind, over just endless chasing. It gives you permission to step off that treadmill, which can genuinely change your well-being and your choices.
He also hits on how much our money decisions get swayed by social pressure. FOMO, the fear of missing out. I mean, I've definitely felt that, seeing what others are doing online, right? A new car, a big trip. Housel basically says recognizing those pulls is step one to making choices that are actually yours, more strategic, more independent.
And that's so relevant today, isn't it? In this super connected world, we're just bombarded with images of what everyone else seems to have or be doing. He encourages you to pause and think critically. Why am I making this choice? Is it truly for me? Or is it because, it feels like what I'm supposed to be doing based on others? Owning your own story.
And maybe one of the most mind-bending ideas is invisible wealth, something most people probably don't think about much. He says true wealth isn't the flashy stuff you see, the expensive car, the huge house. It's the money that's saved, invested, and crucially not spent. The money working for you behind the scenes.
Yeah, and the real insight there is how it flips the script on status and success. It suggests the most financially secure people might actually be pretty unassuming because their wealth is often tucked away in investments, growing quietly, not being used for, conspicuous consumption. It's a kind of quiet power giving you options.
Which leads perfectly to his final big point, really. What he argues is the greatest wealth of all is just freedom. True financial security, in his view, isn't about hitting some magic number. It's about gaining control over your time, your choices, your life.
And bringing that back to you, the listener, this perspective really reframes the whole point of building wealth. It stops being just about a dollar amount. It becomes about creating a life where you have more autonomy, more say in how you spend your days, your energy. It makes you ask, well, what does real freedom look like for me? And how can money be a tool to get there?
Okay, so let's shift a bit. Let's talk about the book's strengths. People really praise its structure, right? Those 19 concise chapters, each hitting a clear point. And honestly, his storytelling is fantastic. Using those historical examples, personal anecdotes, it makes these potentially dry ideas really memorable and easy to digest. They stick with you.
Absolutely. And that storytelling ties directly into its practical guidance. It's not just abstract theory. It genuinely aims to shift your everyday thinking about money, often in subtle ways. And I think a major strength is how timeless the core lessons feel, the behavioral stuff. That doesn't really change much with market cycles or new tech. It feels foundational.
Yeah, definitely. But like any book, it's got limitations too. It's often noted for its lack of specific technical financial advice. Housel is very upfront that he's focusing on the psychology and not telling you which stocks to pick or how to structure a portfolio. Some readers might want that.
That's a fair critique.
Thing.
And some people also feel there's a bit of repetition across the chapters. Themes like luck or moderation, they come up a few times. Another point sometimes raised is that it doesn't really dig into systemic issues, things like economic inequality or wealth gaps based on gender or race. It stays very focused on individual behavior, which is valuable, but maybe not the whole picture for everyone.
And you see that reflected in what readers say. I saw one comment like, it's not a manual to get rich, but quirky anecdotes talking about the how and why of money. Simple language. Others call it fantastic, but acknowledge, yeah, it might repeat basic ideas, but it's super effective at reminding you of them. And sometimes that reminder is exactly what you need.
That sums it up well, I think. The book's real power is in shifting your perspective, reinforcing those crucial behavioral habits. It's not meant to be a step-by-step investment guide.
So wrapping up this deep dive, The Psychology of Money is definitely a worthwhile read if you want to understand the behavioral side of finance better. If you want to adopt those small, powerful habits and just make mentally stronger money decisions.
Yeah, the core takeaway is it's brilliant for changing your mindset, giving you a new lens on wealth. But it's important to know what it isn't. It's not your go-to for specific investment strategies or, say, debt management tactics. You'd need other resources for that.
So maybe a final thought to leave you with. If Housel is right, and true wealth is ultimately about freedom and often invisible, what's one small, maybe seemingly insignificant habit you could change starting today to build more of that kind of wealth? It makes you wonder how often the hunt for practical strategies might actually distract us from playing that deeper psychological game of wealth effectively. Something to think about.